She looks like our lost daughter, said the millionaire's wife. What happened next? Shocked. Ryan Blackwood adjusted his immaculately tailored suit as he navigated the crowded thoroughfare of Nexoria's Undercity. The harsh neon lights cast an eerie glow on the rain-slicked streets, illuminating the stark contrast between the towering corporate spires above and the gritty reality below. His muscular frame moved with practiced confidence through the sea of alien bodies, his hand firmly clasping that of his wife, Adria. "Remind me again why we couldn't take the private shuttle?" Ryan asked, his deep voice carrying a hint of amusement despite his discomfort. Adria's sky-blue skin seemed to shimmer under the artificial lights, her silvery white hair perfectly framing her delicate features. "Because, my dear husband, you promised to experience my world as it truly is, not just the sanitizer version presented to off-worlders." Her accent, a melodic lilt that had first captivated him during trade negotiations 5 years ago, still sent a pleasant shiver down his spine. As the heiress to one of Nexoria's most prestigious houses, Adria had shocked her people by marrying a human businessman. Their union had been as much a merger of assets as of hearts, but time had transformed their arrangement into something neither had anticipated. "Fair enough," Ryan conceded, deftly sidestepping a vendor hawking questionable street food. "Though I doubt the board members would recognize their CEO down here among the rabble." "That's precisely the point," Adria replied, her grip tightening on his hand. "Your company's expansion into Nexorian markets needs to be informed by more than boardroom presentations and—" She stopped abruptly, her entire body going rigid. Ryan followed her gaze to a narrow alleyway, where a small figure huddled against a crumbling wall. A child, no, a young Nexorian girl, sat alone on a dirty concrete ledge, her knees pulled up to her chest. Her pale blue skin was several shades lighter than Adria's, marked with dirt and what appeared to be bruises. Her tattered clothes hung loosely on her thin frame. "Ryan," Adria whispered, her voice trembling. "She looks just like our lost daughter." The words hit him like a physical blow. Memories of Lima, their daughter who had succumbed to a rare genetic disorder 3 years ago, flooded his mind. The pain had nearly destroyed their marriage, driving them both into separate cocoons of grief. The girl looked up, her large luminous eyes, a striking violet color, meeting Ryan's gaze. Despite the obvious differences in species, there was something in those eyes that was hauntingly familiar. "It's impossible," Ryan murmured, but he was already moving toward the child, pulled by an instinct he couldn't explain. As they approached, the girl shrank back, fear evident in her posture. She couldn't be more than 7 or 8 by human standards. Adria knelt down, careful to maintain some distance. "Hello, little one," she said softly in the Nexorian tongue. "Are you alone? Where are your parents?" The girl's eyes darted between them, wary and calculating in a way no child should be. "No parents," she finally replied, her voice barely audible over the ambient noise of the street. "Are you hungry?" Ryan asked, crouching beside his wife. He pulled a nutrient bar from his pocket, a habit from his own humble beginnings that his wealth had never erased. The girl eyed the offering suspiciously before snatching it with surprising speed. She devoured it in seconds, confirming Ryan's suspicions about how long she'd gone without food. "What's your name?" Adria asked gently. The girl hesitated, then whispered, "Mirala." "Mirala," Adria repeated, the name seeming to resonate with her. "I'm Adria, and this is my husband, Ryan." "You're human," Mirala stated, looking at Ryan with undisguised curiosity. "Last time I checked," he replied with a small smile. "And you're very observant." A flicker of pride crossed her face before being quickly suppressed. "You should go. It's not safe here." "For us or for you?" Ryan asked, his instincts honed by years of high-stakes business dealings. Mirala's silence was answer enough. Ryan exchanged a look with Adria, a wordless communication born of years together. He saw in her eyes the same impulse that had gripped him, an inexplicable need to protect this child. "Mirala," Adria said, "would you like to come with us? Just for a meal and perhaps a safe place to sleep tonight?" The girl's eyes narrowed. "Why?" "Because no child should be alone in a place like this," Ryan answered honestly. "I'm not a child," Mirala retorted, a flash of defiance breaking through her fear. "Of course not," Ryan agreed seriously. "You're clearly very capable. but even capable people need help sometimes. A distant siren wailed, and Mirala flinched visibly. She glanced nervously over her shoulder, then back at the couple. "Just for food," she finally conceded, though her posture remained tense, ready to bolt at the first sign of threat. As they led Mirala toward their private transport, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was more than mere coincidence. The resemblance to Lima was uncanny, despite the obvious differences in species. And the timing, their first visit to Nexoria's undercity since the tragedy, seemed too perfect to be chance. What neither Ryan nor Adria noticed was the sleek black drone hovering silently above the alleyway, its recording eye fixed firmly on the retreating trio. The private elevator ascended smoothly to the penthouse suite of the Grand Nexorian, the most exclusive residence in the city's diplomatic quarter. Ryan watched Mirala's reflection in the polished doors, noting how her eyes darted constantly, cataloging every detail of her surroundings with the wariness of a hunted animal. "Our home is just temporary," Adria explained, her melodic voice gentle. "We maintain a residence here for business trips." "Business," Mirala repeated, testing the word. "You're rich." Ryan chuckled. "Observant again. Yes, I run Blackwood Interstellar. We specialize in cross-species technology adaptation." "What my husband mean," Adria interjected with a fond smile, "is that he's very good at taking human innovations and making them work for non-humans, and vice versa." The elevator doors slid open to reveal their penthouse, a stunning blend of human minimalism and Nexorian organic architecture. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city's glittering skyline, the undercity's grime invisible from this height. "You can clean up first," Adria offered, gesturing toward one of the guest suites. "There's a sonic shower and fresh clothes." Mirala hesitated at the threshold, her small hands clutching the tattered edges of her shirt. "I don't need charity." "It's not charity," Ryan said firmly. "It's basic decency." Something in his tone seemed to reassure her, and she nodded once before disappearing into the room. The door closed with a soft click. Adria turned to Ryan, her composure finally cracking. "She has Lima's eyes, Ryan. Not the color, but the expression. That same intensity." Ryan pulled her close, breathing in the familiar scent of her hair. "I know, it's uncanny." "Do you think we're being foolish?" Adria whispered against his chest. "Projecting our grief onto a stranger?" "Probably," he admitted. "But does it matter? She needs help, regardless of who she reminds us of." Adria pulled back slightly, her violet eyes meeting his. "You always did have a savior complex. It's one of the things I first found attractive about you." "Just one of many irresistible qualities," Ryan teased, his hands sliding down to her waist. The grief over Lima had created a chasm between them, their physical intimacy becoming a casualty of their emotional distance. But something about tonight, perhaps the adrenaline of their encounter with Mirala, or the resurfacing of long-buried feelings, had awakened a hunger in both of them. Adria's fingers traced the line of his jaw. "I've missed you," she murmured, her meaning clear. Ryan leaned down, his lips brushing against hers. "I've been right here." "No," she said softly. "You haven't. Neither of us has." Their kiss deepened, years of suppressed desire threatening to overwhelm them both. Ryan's hands moved across the familiar curves of his wife's body, rediscovering territory long neglected. A loud crash from the guest room jolted them apart. They rushed to the door, Ryan leading with protective instinct. "Mirala, are you all right?" Silence. Ryan overrode the privacy lock with his security clearance. The door slid open to reveal Mirala standing in the center of the room, a shattered glass vase at her feet. But what froze them both was the sight of the remaining glass shards, suspended in midair around her, rotating slowly like satellites around a planet. Mirala's eyes widened in fear. "I'm sorry," she whispered, and the glass fragments clattered to the floor. "How did you?" Ryan began, but was cut off by the sudden blaring of his secure comm unit. He pulled the device from his pocket, frowning at the urgent security alert from his corporate headquarters. His expression darkened as he scanned the message. "What is it?" Adria asked, not taking her eyes off Mirala. "There's been a breach at NextGen Laboratories, a Nexorian research facility partially owned by my company." Ryan's voice was tight. An experimental subject escaped during a transfer procedure. The description matches Mirala. Mirala backed away until she hit the wall, her small body trembling. "You're going to send me back?" "No," Adria said firmly, surprising both Ryan and the girl. "We're not." Ryan turned to his wife. "Adria, if what they're saying is true—" "Look at her, Ryan," Adria interrupted, gesturing to the girl's arms where her sleeves had ridden up. Intricate patterns of scarring ran along Mirala's forearms. Too precise to be accidental, too numerous to be anything but deliberate. Some appeared fresh, others partially healed. Ryan felt a cold fury building in his chest. He'd seen similar markings during his military service years ago, evidence of systematic experimentation. "What did they do to you?" he asked softly. Mirala's gaze dropped to the floor. "They said I was special, that my genetic structure was adaptable." Her voice was barely audible. "They wanted to see how much I could change, how much I could, hold." "Hold?" Adria prompted gently. Instead of answering, Mirala looked at a fragment of glass on the floor. It rose smoothly into the air, hovering at eye level. "I couldn't do this before," she said simply. "They made me this way. There are others, but they—" Her voice trailed off. "Didn't survive the procedures," Ryan finished grimly. Mirala nodded, the glass shard dropping back to the floor. Ryan and Adria exchanged a look loaded with unspoken communication. The attraction that had flared between them moments ago was still there, but now tempered by the gravity of what they'd discovered. "We need to move," Ryan decided. "If they've tracked her here—" "They haven't," Mirala interrupted with surprising certainty. "Not yet, but they will." Adria knelt before the girl, taking her small hands. "Mirala, I promise you, we won't let them take you back, but we need to understand what we're facing." Ryan's comm unit chimed again, this time with a message that made his blood run cold. "What now?" Adria asked, noting his expression. "It's from Dr. Venn, the lead researcher at NextGen." Ryan's voice was grim. "He says Mirala isn't just an experimental subject. She's the prototype for a new kind of weapon, and he's offering me a substantial bonus to return her intact." "I'm going to meet with Venn," Ryan announced, his jaw set in determination as he adjusted his cufflinks. Adria's eyes widened. "That's insane. He'll have security waiting." "Precisely why he won't expect me to walk straight through the front door." Ryan checked his reflection in the mirror, ensuring his appearance projected nothing but confident corporate authority. "I own 40% of NextGen. Technically, I'm his boss. And technically, I'm a member of House Thalari," Adria countered, "but that wouldn't stop someone from shooting me if I threatened their interests." Ryan turned to face his wife, taking in her worried expression. The years had done nothing to diminish her beauty. If anything, the subtle signs of aging had only enhanced her elegance. The grief over Lima had driven them apart, but now, faced with this new crisis, he felt closer to her than he had in years. "I need you to stay with Mirala," he said softly, crossing the room to where she stood. "She trusts you more than me." Adria placed a hand on his chest, feeling his heartbeat beneath her palm. "And if you don't come back?" "I've already transferred emergency protocols to your personal account. The yacht is fueled and ready at the private dock. If I'm not back in 3 hours, take Mirala and go." Her fingers curled into the fabric of his shirt. "I can't lose you too, Ryan." The raw emotion in her voice broke through the businesslike facade he'd been maintaining. He pulled her close, one hand cradling the back of her head as their foreheads touched. "You won't," he promised. "This isn't just about Mirala anymore. Whatever they're doing at NextGen violates every ethical standard in both our worlds." Adria's lips found his, the kiss desperate and hungry. Years of suppressed desire surged between them, threatening to overwhelm the urgency of the moment. Ryan's hand slid down her back, relearning the curves of her body as her fingers tangled in his hair. "We should check on Mirala," Adria whispered against his mouth, even as her body pressed closer. "She's sleeping," Ryan murmured, trailing kisses along her jawline. "The sedative you gave her will keep her out for at least another hour." Adria pulled back slightly, her violet eyes dark with desire. "An hour isn't nearly enough time for what I have in mind." Ryan smiled, a flash of the charming rogue she'd fallen for years ago. Then we'll have to be creative with our scheduling. What followed was a passionate reunion of bodies long separated by grief, a physical affirmation of the connection that had never truly been broken. In the aftermath, they lay tangled together, the city lights casting a soft glow across their intertwined forms. I'd forgotten how innovative humans can be, Adria said with a satisfied smile, her fingers tracing patterns on his chest. Ryan chuckled. One of our many admirable qualities. Along with your remarkable stamina, she teased, pressing a kiss to his shoulder. A necessary evolutionary advantage, he replied with mock seriousness. How else could we keep up with superior alien species? Their laughter faded as reality reasserted itself. Ryan glanced at the time display and sighed, reluctantly extricating himself from Adria's embrace. I need to go if I'm going to catch Ven before he leaves for the day. Adria watched him dress, her expression growing serious. Be careful, Ryan. Nexorian corporate politics can be lethal. So can human determination, he replied, securing his sidearm in its concealed holster. The next-gen laboratories complex dominated the research district, its gleaming spires a testament to the wealth flowing through its corridors. Ryan's private transport deposited him at the executive entrance, where the security staff snapped to attention at his approach. Mr. Blackwood, the lead guard said, surprise evident in his tone. We weren't informed of your visit. That was intentional, Ryan replied smoothly. I'm here to see Dr. Ven, unannounced. The guard hesitated, then nodded. Of course, sir. I'll inform his office immediately. Ryan was escorted through the pristine corridors, noting the increased security presence with practiced nonchalance. His military background had taught him to identify threats while appearing oblivious, a skill that had served him well in the corporate world. Dr. Ven's office occupied the uppermost level of the central tower, offering panoramic views of the city. The Nexorian scientist rose from behind his desk as Ryan entered, his pale blue features arranged in a welcoming smile that didn't reach his eyes. Mr. Blackwood, what an unexpected pleasure, Ven said, gesturing to a chair. I assume you received my message? I did, Ryan replied, remaining standing. I found it disturbing, to say the least. Ven's smile faltered slightly. Surely you understand the importance of our work here. The subject… Her name is Mirella, Ryan interrupted coldly. Mirella, then, Ven conceded with a dismissive wave. She represents years of research and billions in investment. The telekinetic abilities alone were achieved through torture, Ryan finished. I saw the scars, Doctor. Ven's expression hardened. The Nexorian Genetic Authority approved all procedures. Your human sensibilities, while admirable, are irrelevant in this context. Ryan's laugh was devoid of humor. My human sensibilities, as you call them, are precisely why I'm here. I want all files related to Mirella and to any other children in your program transferred to my personal server immediately. That's impossible, Ven sputtered. The security implications are… Let me be clear, Ryan interrupted, leaning forward to place his hands on Ven's desk. Either you provide those files voluntarily, or I'll use my position as major shareholder to launch a full investigation into your activities here. I imagine the public, both human and Nexorian, would be very interested in what goes on behind these walls. Ven's composure cracked, revealing a flash of genuine fear. You don't understand. This goes beyond Next Gen. The military directorate is directly involved. They've been funding our research for years. Ryan straightened, the pieces falling into place. So that's it. You're developing weapons, human Nexorian hybrid weapons. The potential is limitless, Ven said, a hint of fanaticism entering his voice. Imagine soldiers with telekinetic abilities, enhanced strength, regenerative capabilities. Children, Ven! You're experimenting on children. Genetically engineered vessels, the scientist corrected, created specifically for this purpose. Ryan felt a cold fury building in his chest. Created how, exactly? Ven hesitated, then activated his terminal. A holographic display materialized between them, showing genetic sequences highlighted in various colors. We used donated genetic material from various sources, Venn explained, his scientific detachment returning, including, I believe, samples from you and your wife. Ryan stared at the display in shock. What did you just say? The fertility treatments your wife underwent after your daughter's death, Venn continued. House Thalari insisted on using our facilities. We repurposed some of the viable embryos for our program. The implications hit Ryan like a physical blow. Marala wasn't just any child. She was their child. Genetically modified, perhaps, but still carrying their DNA. You're going to regret this, Ryan said quietly, his voice deadly calm as he activated his comm unit. Transfer Protocol Alpha 97. Authorization Blackwood. Venn's terminal chimed as Ryan's security override took effect, beginning an automatic download of all files. You can't do this, Venn protested. The Directorate will... Will what? Ryan challenged. Go public with the fact that they've been creating illegal human-alien hybrids for military purposes? I don't think so. As the download completed, Ryan pocketed the data chip. Consider this your termination notice, Doctor. NextGen is under new management effective immediately. Ryan's private transport cut through Nexoria's evening traffic at maximum speed, the autopilot weaving between slower vehicles with precision that would have made a human driver nauseous. His mind raced faster than the vehicle, processing the implications of Venn's revelation. Marala wasn't just any child, she was their child. Their genetic material, manipulated and enhanced but still carrying their bloodline. The thought filled him with equal parts rage and fierce protectiveness. His comm unit chimed with an incoming call from Adria. He accepted immediately. Ryan, we have a situation. Her voice was tense but controlled. There are military directorate vessels approaching the building. Security alerted me moments ago. How's Marala? Awake and frightened. She says she can feel them coming. Ryan checked the transport's navigation system. I'm still 15 minutes out. Initiate evacuation protocol and head for the yacht. I'll meet you there. Already in progress, Adria confirmed. But there's something else. I've contacted my family. Ryan's grip tightened on the armrest. House Thalari was one of the oldest and most influential families on Nexoria, and they had never approved of Adria's marriage to a human. Their relationship with her had been strained since the wedding, becoming nearly non-existent after Lima's death. And, he prompted, my father wants to meet Marala. I sent him the genetic verification from your data download. Ryan processed this development. That could work in our favor. The Directorate wouldn't dare move openly against House Thalari. Exactly, Adria agreed. But my father has conditions. Of course he does, Ryan muttered. We'll discuss it when I get there. For now, focus on getting to the yacht. The call ended as his transport swerved violently to avoid an oncoming security vehicle, its sirens blaring. Ryan checked the rear display and cursed under his breath. 3 more were in pursuit. Evasive pattern Delta, he commanded the autopilot. The transport responded immediately, diving into a lower traffic lane and accelerating through a narrow gap between commercial haulers. Ryan accessed the vehicle's defense systems. Illegal modifications that had cost him a small fortune, but were proving their worth now. A targeted electromagnetic pulse disabled the pursuing vehicle's navigation systems, sending them veering off course. The momentary victory was short-lived. As his transport rounded the final approach to their residential tower, he saw military directorate gunships hovering around the upper levels. Flashes of weapons fire illuminated the penthouse level. Adria, status report! He barked into the comm. Static answered him. Ryan switched to the emergency channel. Blackwood override, track Adria's personal beacon. The navigation display flickered, then showed a moving dot several levels below the penthouse, descending rapidly through the building's emergency shafts. Good girl, Ryan thought with grim satisfaction. The maintenance tunnels would lead directly to their private dock. He redirected the transport, bypassing the main entrance and heading for the service access at the building's rear. As he approached, the vehicle's sensors detected multiple armed figures converging on the dock area. Not today, bastards, Ryan muttered, activating the transport's offensive capabilities. The vehicle swooped low, releasing a cloud of smoke grenades that engulfed the dock in thick, obscuring vapor. Ryan didn't wait for the transport to fully stop before leaping out, his military training taking over as he drew his sidearm and moved through the smoke with practiced efficiency. The first Directorate soldier appeared through the haze, weapon raised. Ryan fired twice, clean, precise shots that dropped the alien without killing him. He moved past the fallen soldier, heading for the maintenance access where Adria's beacon was now stationary. The heavy security door was locked from the inside, another good sign. Ryan placed his palm against the scanner and felt the satisfying click as it recognized his biometrics. The door slid open to reveal Adria, her elegant attire replaced with practical combat gear. A pulse rifle held confidently in her hands. Behind her, Mirala crouched against the wall, her eyes wide with fear. "Took you long enough," Adria said, relief evident beneath her teasing tone. Ryan pulled her into a quick, fierce kiss. Traffic was hell. Mirala stood slowly, her gaze fixed on something behind Ryan. "More coming," she whispered. Ryan turned to see shadows moving through the dissipating smoke. "To the yacht. Now!" They sprinted down the corridor toward the private dock where their vessel waited. Ryan took the rear position, firing periodically to slow their pursuers. As they reached the dock, a squad of Directorate soldiers emerged from a side passage, cutting off their escape. Ryan pushed Adria and Mirala behind a cargo container, returning fire as energy bolts sizzled past them. "We're pinned down," he growled, checking his weapon's charge, "and outnumbered." Mirala's small hand gripped his arm. "I can help," she said, her voice steadier than he'd heard before. Before Ryan could respond, the girl stepped out from behind their cover. The soldiers immediately targeted her, weapons charging, but their shots never fired. A shimmering barrier of energy materialized between Mirala and the soldiers, absorbing the energy bolts that should have struck her. With a gesture that seemed almost casual, she redirected the energy back toward their attackers, not to harm but to disable, shorting out their weapons and armor systems. "Run!" she commanded, her small voice somehow carrying over the chaos. Ryan and Adria didn't hesitate, racing toward the yacht with Mirala between them. As they reached the vessel, Ryan's comm unit finally connected to a new channel. "Blackwood, this is Commander Thalari," a deep, authoritative voice announced. "My security forces are engaging the Directorate troops at your location. Get my daughter and granddaughter to your vessel immediately." Ryan exchanged a startled look with Adria as they boarded the yacht. "Granddaughter?" "I may have emphasized that particular aspect of the situation," Adria admitted as she initiated the launch sequence. "My father has always valued bloodline above all else." "Convenient," Ryan remarked, securing Mirala in a passenger seat before taking the pilot's position. "And unexpected. House Thalari has been at odds with the military directorate for generations," Adria explained. "This just gave him the excuse he needed to act openly against them." As the yacht disengaged from the dock, Ryan saw the distinctive silver-blue uniforms of House Thalari's elite guard engaging the Directorate forces. Their superior training was evident as they systematically pushed the soldiers back. "Your father's conditions?" Ryan asked as they accelerated away from the battle. Adria's expression turned serious. "He wants Mirala recognized as a legitimate Thalari heir. And he wants us to return to the family compound." Ryan glanced at Mirala, who was watching the exchange with keen interest. "And what do you want, Mirala?" The girl considered the question with surprising maturity. "I want to stay with you," she said simply. "Both of you." Something warm and fierce expanded in Ryan's chest, a feeling he hadn't experienced since Lima. He reached across to squeeze Adria's hand, their eyes meeting in silent communication. "Then that's what will happen," he promised. The ancestral compound of House Thalari sprawled across a private plateau overlooking Nexoria's capital, its ancient stone architecture a defiant contrast to the city's sleek modernism. Ryan stood at the window of their assigned quarters, watching as security patrols circled the perimeter with military precision. "Comfortable prison," he muttered as Adria emerged from Mirala's adjoining room. "She's finally asleep," Adria said, closing the door softly behind her. "The physician says her energy levels are stabilizing." Ryan turned from the window, taking in the sight of his wife. She changed from her tactical gear into a traditional Thalari house robe that accentuated her elegant figure. The events of the past days had awakened something between them. A rekindling of desire, yes, but also a deeper connection forged in shared purpose. "Your father's hospitality is impressive," Ryan observed. considering he once threatened to have me executed for corrupting his daughter. Adria's lips curved into a smile as she crossed the room to him. He's practical. The Thalari bloodline has been weakening for generations. Mirola represents something he values more than his prejudice against humans. Genetic vitality, Ryan concluded, recalling the data he'd reviewed since their arrival. That's what this is really about, isn't it? Not protecting Mirola, but what she represents for your family's future. Adria's fingers traced the line of his jaw, a gesture that had become familiar again in recent days. Does the motivation matter if the protection is real? Ryan caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. It matters if they plan to use her the same way NextGen did. They won't, Adria assured him. My father may be calculating, but he's not cruel. And besides, her body pressed against his, a deliberate distraction. We won't let them. Ryan's arms encircled her waist, the warmth of her body through the thin robe igniting the desire that simmered constantly between them now. Their lips met in a kiss that quickly deepened, the stress and danger of recent days transforming into a different kind of urgency. Later, as they lay tangled in the sheets, Ryan's thoughts returned to the data he'd stolen from NextGen. He'd spent hours analyzing it while Adria negotiated with her family, and what he'd found disturbed him deeply. There are others, he said quietly, his fingers tracing patterns on Adria's bare shoulder. At least 12 facilities across Nexoria, each housing children like Mirola. Different abilities, different genetic combinations, but all part of the same program. Adria propped herself up on one elbow, her expression serious. How many? Hundreds, Ryan replied grimly. And that's not all. The Directorate has launched a propaganda campaign against me. They're calling me a human terrorist who stole valuable military assets. That's absurd, Adria scoffed. You're one of the most respected human businessmen on Nexoria. Not anymore, Ryan said, reaching for his datapad on the nightstand. He showed her the official bulletin, his face prominently displayed alongside warnings about dangerous human extremists. They're trying to turn this into a diplomatic incident, Adria realized. If they can frame it as human aggression against Nexorian interests, then the Human Diplomatic Corps will be forced to disavow me to maintain relations, Ryan finished. I've already received a message from the Earth ambassador requesting that I voluntarily return to Earth for consultations. Adria sat up fully, the sheet falling away as she took the data pad to examine the bulletin more closely. Ryan found himself momentarily distracted by the blue curves of her body, still flushed from their lovemaking. My father needs to see this, she said, oblivious to his admiring gaze. If the Directorate is willing to risk diplomatic relations with Earth, they must be desperate to recover Mirola. Ryan nodded, forcing his thoughts back to the crisis at hand, or to ensure no one discovers what they've been doing with those other children. A soft knock at the door interrupted them. Adria quickly wrapped herself in her robe while Ryan pulled on his trousers. Enter, he called once they were decent. A Thalari house guard stepped into the room, his expression carefully neutral despite the obvious scene he was interrupting. Lord Thalari requests your presence in the ancestral hall immediately, both of you. What's happened? Adria asked, already moving to dress more formally. A transmission from the military directorate, the guard replied. And the child is awake. She's displaying some concerning behavior. Ryan and Adria exchanged alarmed glances before hurrying to finish dressing. They followed the guard through the compound's labyrinthine corridors to the ancestral hall, a cavernous chamber dominated by a massive table carved from a single piece of rare Nexorian heartwood. Lord Thalari stood at the head of the table, his imposing figure a more severe masculine version of Adria's elegant beauty. Beside him, Mirola sat perched on a chair too large for her small frame, her eyes fixed on a holographic display floating above the table's surface. Ah, the human arrives, Lord Thalari said, his tone making the word human sound like both an insult and a reluctant compliment. Your offspring has been most informative. Ryan bristled at the possessive phrasing, but kept his expression neutral. She's our daughter, not an offspring or an asset. Lord Thalari's lips twitched in what might have been amusement. Indeed, a daughter with remarkable abilities. She's been describing the other facilities to us in considerable detail, places she claims never to have visited physically. Ryan moved to Mirila's side, noting the distant look in her eyes as she stared at the holographic display, a detailed schematic of what appeared to be another research facility. "Mirala," he said gently, "are you all right?" The girl blinked, her focus returning as she looked up at him. "I can feel them, Ryan. The others. They're scared." "The others like you?" Adria asked, joining them. Mirala nodded. "They're calling to me. Ever since we came here, the voices have been getting stronger." "Telepathic connection," Lord Thalari stated with poorly concealed excitement. "Far beyond what the Directorate reported in their official filings." Ryan shot him a sharp look. "You knew about the program?" "Of course," the Nexorian Lord replied dismissively. "House Thalari has informants in all significant governmental departments. We did not, however, know of our own genetic contribution to it. That oversight will be addressed." "Father," Adria interjected, "Ryan has discovered something you need to see." She handed him the data pad with the propaganda bulletin. Lord Thalari's expression darkened as he read. "They dare implicate House Thalari in a human terrorist action?" His voice was dangerously soft. "This insult cannot stand." "It's not just an insult," Ryan pointed out. "It's a strategy. They're trying to isolate me from human support while pressuring your house to surrender Mirala." Lord Thalari's eyes narrowed. "No one dictates terms to House Thalari." He turned to his daughter. "You were right to bring this to my attention." Ryan exchanged a surprised look with Adria. Her father rarely admitted she was right about anything. "There's more," Ryan said, stepping forward. "The data I took from NextGen shows hundreds of children in facilities across Nexoria. If Mirala can connect with them telepathically, then they might be located and recovered," Lord Thalari finished, his tactical mind immediately grasping the implications. "A significant leverage against the Directorate." "They're not leverage," Ryan corrected firmly. "They're victims who need rescue." Lord Thalari studied him with new interest. "You humans and your moral certainties, it's both your greatest weakness and your most admirable quality." He turned to Mirala. "Child, can you show us where the others are being held?" Mirala nodded solemnly. "I can try, but they're hurting. We need to help them soon." "Captain Jackson, I appreciate your prompt response," Ryan said, his encrypted communication channel displaying the stern face of his former military commander. "When one of my best former operatives calls in a marker, I listen," Captain Marcus Jackson replied, his weathered features betraying little emotion. "Though I must say, Blackwood, you've managed to create quite the diplomatic incident." Ryan smiled grimly. "The situation is more complicated than the official channels are reporting." "It usually is. That's why I'm talking to you instead of hanging up." Jackson leaned forward. "Tell me what you need." "Extraction support for multiple packages from secured facilities, and possibly immediate defensive assistance." Ryan transferred the data files containing the facility locations and security specifications. "These are children, Marcus, human Nexorian hybrids being weaponized." Jackson's professional demeanor cracked slightly as he reviewed the files. "Jesus Christ, Ryan. They're experimenting on kids with human DNA? Does Earth Command know about this?" "Not officially. The Nexorian Military Directorate has been careful to keep this program compartmentalized." "Not anymore," Jackson said grimly. "I can have a special tactics team ready within 6 hours. Officially, they'll be conducting training exercises with Nexorian allied forces. Unofficially, they'll be standing by to assist in a humanitarian rescue operation," Ryan finished. "Exactly. And Ryan," Jackson's expression softened slightly, "the girl in your report, is she really?" "Yes," Ryan confirmed. "Genetically, she's our daughter. Or at least created from our genetic material." Jackson nodded. "Then this isn't just a mission. It's family. We take care of our own." The transmission ended, leaving Ryan with a renewed sense of purpose. Humanity's protective instinct toward its children was legendary across the galaxy, a trait that other species sometimes found bewildering but ultimately respected. The Nexorian Directorate had crossed a line they couldn't uncross. Ryan turned to find Adria watching him from the doorway, her expression a complex mixture of pride and concern. Your human connections came through, she observed. They did. Ryan crossed the room to her, drawn by the magnetic pull that seemed to grow stronger between them with each passing day. Captain Jackson will have a special tactics team ready within hours. Adria's fingers traced the line of his jaw, a gesture that had become her signature caress. My father's guards are formidable, but they've never worked with human military units before. They'll adapt, Ryan said, capturing her hand and pressing a kiss to her palm. Humans are surprisingly good at improvising in combat situations. Among other things, Adria murmured, her body moving closer to his. The stress of their situation had paradoxically reignited the passion between them, as if their bodies sought to affirm life in the face of danger. Ryan's arms encircled her waist, pulling her against him. We should be planning the extraction operation. We should, she agreed, her lips brushing his. But I find myself needing a reminder of what we're fighting for. What followed was an intense, almost desperate affirmation of their connection. Not just physical desire, but the deeper bond that had been reforged through their shared purpose to protect Mirala. Afterward, as they lay tangled together, the compound's alarm system shattered their brief respite. Perimeter breach, the automated system announced, multiple hostiles approaching from all vectors. Ryan was on his feet instantly, pulling on his clothes with military efficiency. The directorate must have decided they couldn't wait for diplomatic pressure to work. Adria was equally quick, her movements graceful, even in urgency. They're more desperate than we thought. They rushed to the command center, where Lord Thaleri was already directing the compound's defenses, his aristocratic features set in grim determination. The Directorate has committed an act of war against House Thaleri, he announced as they entered. They will regret their impudence. The tactical display showed dozens of Directorate assault craft surrounding the compound, with ground forces already engaging the outer perimeter guards. Where's Mirala? Ryan demanded. In the secure chamber as we discussed, Lord Thaleri replied, though she was resistant to the idea. A nearby explosion shook the room, sending dust cascading from the ancient ceiling. Their primary target will be Mirala, Ryan said, accessing the compound's defense systems. We need to... His words were cut off as the main doors to the command center burst open. Instead of the expected Directorate soldiers, Mirala stood in the doorway, her small frame vibrating with barely contained energy. They're hurting them, she said, her voice eerily calm despite the tears streaming down her face. The other children, I can feel it. They're hurting them to make me come out. Ryan moved to her side, kneeling to meet her at eye level. Mirala, you need to stay in the secure room. We'll stop them. She shook her head, her eyes glowing with an unnatural light. No! I can stop them. I can feel all the others now. We're connected. Before anyone could respond, another explosion rocked the compound, this one much closer. The tactical display showed Directorate forces breaching the inner courtyard. We're out of time, Lord Thaleri said grimly. The House Guard cannot hold them much longer. Mirala stepped forward, her small hand reaching for Ryan's. I need to go outside. Absolutely not, Adria protested, joining them. It's too dangerous. They can't hurt me, Mirala said with uncanny certainty. Not anymore. And I won't let them hurt you either. Something in her tone, a power and confidence far beyond her years, gave Ryan pause. He exchanged a look with Adria, seeing his own uncertainty reflected in her eyes. I'll go with her, he decided. Adria, coordinate with your father's guards. If Captain Jackson's team arrives, direct them to our position. Lord Thaleri's expression darkened. You would risk my granddaughter's life based on a child's whim? I'm trusting my daughter's understanding of her own abilities, Ryan corrected firmly. Something you might consider doing as well. Without waiting for a response, he led Mirala through the compound's corridors toward the central courtyard, where the sounds of battle grew louder with each step. House Thaleri guards fought valiantly against the superior numbers of Directorate forces, but they were clearly losing ground. As they reached the courtyard entrance, Ryan drew his sidearm. Stay behind me, he instructed Mirala. To his surprise, she stepped confidently past him into the open courtyard, seemingly oblivious to the energy weapons discharging around them. Mirala! He called, rushing after her. The fighting paused momentarily as both sides registered the presence of a child on the battlefield. A Directorate commander stepped forward, his weapon trained on Ryan. "Surrender the asset," he demanded, "or we will use lethal force." Ryan positioned himself in front of Mirala, his weapon steady despite the overwhelming odds. "She's not an asset. She's a child. My child." The commander's expression hardened. "Your human sentimentality is irrelevant. The subject is property of the Nexorian Military Directorate." "No," Mirala said, her voice carrying across the courtyard with unnatural clarity. "I belong to myself." She stepped around Ryan, raising her small hands toward the sky. The air around her began to shimmer, reminiscent of the protective barrier she'd created during their escape, but vastly more powerful. "The others are with me now," she said, her eyes glowing brighter. "All of us, together." A pulse of energy emanated from her, expanding outward in a visible wave that passed harmlessly through Ryan and the House Thalari guards, but sent the Directorate forces crumpling to the ground, their weapons and equipment suddenly inert. Ryan stared in amazement as Mirala maintained the field, her small body trembling with the effort, but her expression serene. "What did you do?" he asked softly. "We shut down their neural implants," she explained. "All Directorate soldiers have them. The other children helped me find the frequency." Above them, the Directorate assault craft began to fall from the sky, their pilots similarly incapacitated. Ryan pulled Mirala close as debris rained down around them, but none came near, deflected by the shimmering field that still surrounded them. In the sudden silence that followed, the whine of approaching engines announced new arrivals. Ryan tensed until he recognized the distinctive profile of Earth Special Tactics dropships. Captain Jackson had arrived, and not a moment too soon. "Approaching target Alpha," Captain Jackson's voice crackled through the comm as their assault shuttle descended toward the largest next-gen facility. "Resistance appears minimal. Whatever your girl did to their neural implants is still holding." Ryan checked his tactical display, noting the positions of the 5 other shuttles approaching different facilities simultaneously across Nexoria. Each carried a mixed team of Earth Special Tactics operatives and House Thalari elite guards, an unprecedented cooperation born of necessity and shared purpose. "Copy that," Ryan responded. "Remember, extraction of the children is priority 1. Data retrieval secondary." "Roger. Though I still think you should have stayed back at the compound with your family." Ryan glanced at Mirala, who sat strapped into the seat beside him, her small face serene despite the combat drop they were experiencing. "My family is why I'm here." The shuttle touched down with a slight jolt, its ramp descending before they'd fully settled. Captain Jackson's team moved with the fluid precision that had made Earth's special forces legendary throughout the galaxy, securing the landing zone in seconds. "Perimeter clear," Jackson reported. "Looks like your intel was solid. Most of their security systems are offline." Ryan nodded to Mirala. "That's our cue." They moved through the facility's corridors, encountering only minimal resistance from confused staff members who surrendered immediately upon seeing the determined human soldiers. The few Directorate security personnel who remained conscious were quickly neutralized with non-lethal force. Mirala led them unerringly through the complex, following the telepathic signatures of the children held within. "This way," she said, pointing toward a heavily reinforced door. "There are 23 of them here." Jackson signaled to his demolition specialist, who placed shaped charges on the door's hinges. "Fire in the hole!" The controlled explosion breached the door perfectly, allowing the team to sweep into a large chamber filled with individual containment units. Each held a child of varying age, all displaying the same pale blue skin as Mirala, though with subtle variations. "My God," Jackson muttered, his professional demeanor cracking at the sight. "They're just kids." Ryan moved to the central control console, overriding the security protocols with the codes he'd extracted from the next-gen data. One by one, the containment units deactivated, their transparent barriers retracting. The children emerged cautiously, their eyes immediately finding Mirala. No words were exchanged, but Ryan could sense the silent communication passing between them. "They're ready," Mirala announced. "But there's something else. Something bad." Ryan knelt beside her. "What is it?" The Directorate commander, the one who escaped our attack, He's activated something called Protocol Omega. It's, she frowned, concentrating. It's a weapon, a big one, aimed at the human colony on Proxima 2. Jackson swore under his breath. That's a civilian settlement, over 2 million people. He thinks if he threatens human civilians, Earth will back down and let them keep the program running, Mirala explained, her voice unnaturally adult as she relayed the information from the telepathic network. The weapon launches in 20 minutes. Ryan's mind raced through options. Can you locate it? Mirala nodded. The other children are helping me see it. It's in orbit, disguised as a communications satellite. Jackson was already on his comm, relaying the information to Earth Command. No friendly assets in range, he reported grimly. Nearest destroyer is 3 hours out. We don't need a destroyer, Mirala said quietly. We can stop it ourselves. Ryan exchanged a concerned look with Jackson. Mirala, that satellite is in orbit. We can't reach it in time. Not physically, she agreed, but together we can reach it another way. The other children had formed a circle around her, their hands linked. The air in the chamber began to shimmer with the now familiar energy field that accompanied Mirala's abilities. What are they doing? Jackson asked. I'm not sure, Ryan admitted, but I think we should let them try. The energy field intensified, the air crackling with power as the children's eyes began to glow with the same unearthly light as Mirala's. Outside, the sky darkened as if a storm were gathering, though there wasn't a cloud in sight. Ryan's comm unit chimed with an incoming transmission from the compound. Adria's face appeared, her expression a mixture of concern and awe. Ryan, are you seeing this? The atmospheric readings around the planet are going crazy. It's Mirala and the others, he explained. They're trying to stop a directorate weapon targeting Proxima 2. Adria's eyes widened. My father's astronomers are reporting a massive energy surge around an orbital object. She paused, listening to someone off-screen. It's gone. The object just disintegrated. In the chamber, the children lowered their hands, the energy field dissipating. Mirala swayed slightly and Ryan rushed to steady her. We did it, she said, her voice once again that of a child. We turned their own energy against them. The bad man who ordered it is gone too. Ryan didn't ask for clarification on what gone meant. Some questions were better left unanswered. 3 months later, Ryan stood on the balcony of their new home, watching as Mirala led a group of children through a series of exercises in the sprawling gardens below. The compound, built on land donated by House Thalari, but technically on Earth diplomatic territory, served as both home and school for the rescued children. Adria joined him, slipping her arm around his waist. The Earth ambassador called. The adoption papers for all 78 children have been approved. Ryan pulled her closer, pressing a kiss to her temple. 78 kids. We certainly didn't do things halfway, did we? Would you have it any other way? She asked, her body fitting perfectly against his side. Not a chance, he replied honestly. The events following their rescue operation had unfolded with a speed that still amazed him. The Directorate's illegal weapons program had been exposed to both human and Nexorian public, causing a political earthquake that toppled the military government. House Thalari, with Lord Thalari shrewdly positioning himself as a champion of reform, now led a coalition government pledged to ethical scientific practices and stronger ties with Earth. The children once intended as weapons were now being educated to use their abilities responsibly. Under Mirala's leadership, they had formed a tight-knit community that functioned almost as a single extended consciousness while maintaining their individuality. Your father's coming for dinner, Ryan reminded her. Should I wear the formal suit he hates or the casual one he despises? Adria laughed, the sound still the most beautiful thing he'd ever heard. Wear whatever you like. He's finally accepted that his daughter married a stubborn human who refuses to follow Nexorian protocol. He's accepted it because we gave him 78 grandchildren with the genetic vitality to ensure House Thalari's dominance for generations, Ryan pointed out wryly. That may have influenced his change of heart, Adria admitted with a smile, though I think he's genuinely impressed by you. He told me humans have a remarkable capacity for both destruction and creation. High praise from a Nexorian aristocrat. Adria turned in his arms, her violet eyes meeting his. "Do you ever regret it? Getting involved with all this when we could have just walked past that alley and never seen Marala?" Ryan considered the question seriously. "Not for a second. She brought us back to each other. She gave us purpose again." "She gave us a family," Adria agreed softly. "A rather large, telepathically linked, genetically enhanced family, but a family nonetheless." Below them, Marala looked up suddenly, as if sensing their conversation. She waved, her smile radiant in a way it hadn't been when they'd first found her. Ryan waved back, feeling the familiar swell of pride and love. "You know, when you said she looks like our lost daughter that night, I never imagined where it would lead us." "To exactly where we were meant to be," Adria replied, rising on her toes to kiss him. As their lips met, Ryan reflected that sometimes the most shocking turns in life led to the most beautiful destinations. What had begun with a chance encounter in a dirty alley had transformed not just their lives, but potentially the future of human-Nexorian relations for generations to come. And it had all started with 7 simple words. "She looks like our lost daughter."